Move or else. I was helping.
Back off, now!
In the heart of Evergreen City, a bustling metropolis nestled along the Pacific Northwest coast, where towering evergreens framed the skyline, and the salty breeze from the nearby bay carried whispers of both promise and peril. An ordinary afternoon turned into a nightmare that would shake the foundations of justice. It was a crisp autumn day in the Central Plaza, a vibrant hub where street vendors hawked fresh coffee and handmade crafts. Musicians strummed guitars for spare change, and families strolled under the shade of ancient oaks. But on this day, the air grew thick with tension as a routine act of kindness spiraled into violence, exposing the ugly underbelly of power and prejudice in America. Sarah Jenkins, a dedicated nurse in her mid-30s who had spent years tending to the sick at Evergreen General Hospital, was simply helping an elderly woman navigate the crowded plaza. The woman, frail and leaning on a walker, had stumbled on an uneven pavement crack, and Sarah's compassionate nature kicked in without a second thought. She steadied the woman, offering a warm smile and gentle words of reassurance. Little did Sarah know that this simple gesture would draw the ire of Officer Harlan, a burly patrolman known around the precinct for his short fuse and whispered reputation for biased enforcement. Officer Harlan approached with a scowl, his uniform straining against his broad frame. "Hey you, move along. You're blocking the walkway," he barked, his voice laced with unwarranted aggression. Sarah, taken aback but composed, replied calmly, "Officer, I'm just helping this lady. We'll be out of your way in a moment." But Harlan's face twisted in rage, and without warning, he unleashed a torrent of racial slurs that cut through the air like a knife. The elderly woman gasped, and bystanders froze in disbelief as Harlan's fist connected with Sarah's jaw in a brutal punch. She crumpled to the ground, blood trickling from her lip, her nurse's scrubs now stained with the evidence of unprovoked assault. The plaza erupted in shock. Gasps turned to murmurs, and several people pulled out their phones, capturing the scene on video. One young man, live streaming to his social media followers, narrated breathlessly, "Oh man, this cop just hit a black nurse for no reason. This is insane." Comments flooded in real-time outrage, calls for justice, and debates about police accountability sparking heated discussions online. But before the crowd could fully react, a tall, imposing figure pushed through the throng. It was David Jenkins, Sarah's older brother, a seasoned FBI agent who had just arrived in town for a family visit. David's eyes widened in horror at the sight of his sister on the ground, then narrowed in fury as he locked gazes with Harlan. "You just assaulted an innocent woman, me sister," David roared, his voice steady but laced with authority. Harlan smirked, reaching for his baton, but David moved with the precision of his training. In a swift motion, he disarmed Harlan, twisting his arm and forcing him to the pavement. The crowd cheered tentatively, but the act ignited a powder keg. Sirens wailed in the distance, signaling the arrival of reinforcements, and what started as a single act of brutality ballooned into a city-wide confrontation that questioned the very essence of law and order. As the videos spread like wildfire across platforms, hashtags like Justice for Sarah and Stop Police Abuse began trending. Viewers from coast to coast weighed in. Some defended the police, arguing for more context, while others decried systemic racism, fueling endless debates in comment sections and forums. David, still kneeling over the subdued Harlan, pulled out his FBI badge, holding it high. "I'm Special Agent David Jenkins. This man is under arrest for assault." But the arriving officers, led by Captain Reynolds, a grizzled veteran with a history of protecting his own, ignored the badge and swarmed David, cuffing him amid protests from the growing crowd. Sarah, wiping blood from her face, pleaded with the officers. "He's my brother. He was protecting me." Her defiance, despite the swelling bruise on her cheek, became an iconic image captured on countless phones, a bloodied nurse standing tall against a wall of blue uniforms. The crowd's outcry intensified, with chants of "Let him go" echoing through the plaza. Live streams amplified the chaos globally, drawing millions of views and sparking international headlines. Was this justice, or just another example of the system shielding its flaws? The question hung in the air, dividing opinions and keeping viewers glued to their screens. As David was hauled into a police van for transport to the station, the situation took a darker turn. En route through the winding streets of Evergreen's industrial district, the van was ambushed by masked assailants in black SUVs. Tires screeched, gunfire erupted, and the van swerved off the road. Handcuffed in the back, David kicked open the door amid the hail of bullets, rolling to cover behind a dumpster. He managed to free himself using a shard of glass from the shattered window, then turned the tables on his attackers, disarming one and firing back. The firefight was intense, with bullets ricocheting off metal and sparks flying in the dimming light. David escaped, bruised but alive, his mind racing. Who orchestrated this? Was it a hit to silence him? Meanwhile, back in the plaza, chaos reigned. Sarah, still reeling from her injuries, was caught in the swelling protest. As demonstrators clashed with riot police, she was suddenly grabbed from behind and dragged into an unmarked van. Her screams were drowned out by the crowd's roar, but one witness, a sharp-eyed journalist named Lisa Moreno, captured the abduction on her camera. Lisa, a tenacious reporter for the local news outlet, had been covering the incident from the start. She broadcast the footage live, her voice urgent. "This is unbelievable. The nurse who was assaulted has just been kidnapped in broad daylight." The video went viral, adding fuel to the fire of public outrage and prompting heated debates about corruption in law enforcement. David, now a fugitive in his own city, linked up with Lisa after spotting her broadcast on a diner TV. Together, they pored over traffic camera footage from the city's surveillance network, tracing the van to an abandoned warehouse in the Old Mill district. The tension built as they navigated dark alleys, evading patrols. Inside the warehouse, David confronted a shocking betrayal. His former FBI partner, Agent Turner, emerged from the shadows, gun drawn. "David, you should have stayed out of this," Turner sneered, revealing he was on the payroll of a higher power pulling strings in Evergreen. A brutal hand-to-hand struggle ensued, fists flying, bodies slamming against crates, sending with David overpowering Turner and cuffing him to a pipe. But the revelation cut deep. How far did this corruption go? Viewers following the story online argued fiercely. Some saw it as proof of deep-state conspiracies, others as isolated greed. With Turner subdued, David rescued Sarah from a locked room, carrying her weakened form through the warehouse's maze of corridors. Gunfire echoed as reinforcements arrived, forcing a desperate escape. They made it to Evergreen General Hospital, where a sympathetic doctor, Dr. Elena Vasquez, whisked them into a secure ward. "I'll protect you," she whispered, barricading the doors. For a brief moment, safety seemed within reach, but the illusion shattered when armed tactical units stormed the building. Tear gas canisters rolled down hallways, patients screamed, and chaos engulfed the emergency room. David improvised, grabbing a fire extinguisher to create a smokescreen, then fought off assailants in a heart-pounding melee, punching, dodging, and shielding innocents. The scene was pure adrenaline, with lives hanging in the balance and moral questions swirling. When does self-defense cross into vigilantism? Lisa, positioned outside, live-streamed the assault, her camera capturing the brutality. "The police are attacking a hospital. This is madness," she exclaimed, her feed exploding with views. Social media erupted. Outrage from civil rights advocates clashed with defenses from law and order supporters, creating a storm of controversy that kept algorithms buzzing and viewers engaged for hours. As the dust settled, the true mastermind emerged. District Attorney Victor Hale, a silver-haired power broker who had manipulated the entire ordeal from his opulent office overlooking the bay. Hale confronted Sarah in a hidden safe house, his voice dripping with arrogance. "You and your brother threatened my empire," he admitted, revealing how he had ordered cover-ups, executions, and bribes to maintain control over Evergreen's justice system. His motives? Pure ambition, climbing the political ladder on the backs of the vulnerable. But Hale's confession was interrupted when David burst in, armed with files from a retired FBI agent, Elias Ford, who had long suspected Hale's corruption. Elias, a grizzled veteran living in a quiet suburb, had handed David a dossier exposing Hale's orders, falsified reports, witness intimidations, and ties to Harlan's initial assault. Lisa broadcast the evidence nationwide, her voice steady amid the frenzy. This is the smoking gun district attorney Hale is behind it all. The city screens, usually reserved for public announcements, lit up with Hale's ranting face. "I am the law here. You peasants can't touch me," he bellowed, waving a pistol wildly. The crowd below surged, chanting, "Arrest Hale." Defecting officers, young and idealistic, turned their backs on him, inspired by the people's defiance. The climax unfolded on the grand steps of the Evergreen Courthouse, a symbol of justice now stained with blood. David faced Hale amid a sea of protesters, the air electric with tension. Hale fired wildly, the bullet grazing David's shoulder, but missing its mark. They grappled fiercely, Hale's desperation against David's resolve, until Hale was overpowered. In a stunning turn, the defecting officers aimed their weapons at Hale, rejecting his tyranny. One shot rang out from their ranks, and Hale collapsed, his empire crumbling in an instant. The crowd erupted in cheers, but the moment was bittersweet, prompting soul-searching debates. Was this vigilante justice or necessary reckoning? Sarah, freed during the melee, reunited with David on the steps, her wounds bandaged but her spirit unbroken. As dawn broke over the transformed city, crowds gathered not in fear, but in hope. The courthouse, once a bastion of corruption, now stood as a beacon of rebirth. Sarah's image plastered on murals and billboards became a rallying cry for accountability, her story inspiring reforms in policing and oversight. The lessons were clear. Silence in the face of injustice breeds monsters, but one act of courage can spark a revolution. Evergreen City emerged stronger, its people united by the truth they had fought to uncover. Marcus Waite, David and Sarah walked hand in hand into the new day, with Lisa by their side, her camera still rolling as a testament to the power of exposure. In the end, justice prevailed not through flawless systems, but through the unbreakable will of ordinary people. The fight left scars, but it forged a legacy of resilience. Victor Hale's downfall marked the close of a dark chapter, ensuring no loose ends lingered, his network dismantled, his allies arrested, and the city committed to transparency. What do you think about this story of violence and injustice? Share your opinions in the comments below. Do you believe such events could happen in real life? And how would you stand against them? Take a stance. Is violence ever justified in the pursuit of justice, or should we always rely on the system? Express your views. I'd love to hear from you and spark more discussions.